Hey everyone, it's Konrad Bobilak here, CEO of Investors Prime Real Estate and best-selling international author of Australian Real Estate Investing Made Simple. Welcome to today's YouTube video. I normally don't like talking about tax. It's a boring topic, but I'm going to cover it from a very specific perspective because it's going to influence what kind of properties you'll be targeting if you're wanting to buy a large property portfolio and establish a large property portfolio that can replace your income, because this is super important. I've had a lot of questions emailed me over the last, well, since the changes came in, which I'll cover today, about what is the impact of the new 2024 land tax changes in terms of how much land tax you'll be paying as a landlord. And they have very significant impact. Having said that, what I'm going to show you is my company's been around now for 11 years, and I keep saying the same thing, which is you've got to target very specific properties which enable you mathematically to buy lots of them. Because ultimately, if you're targeting the wrong type of property that has, for example, a large amount of land tax payable, and the mathematics and the numbers don't stack up, you won't be able to buy 10 of them or 15 of them, and you'll never be able to replace your income and create financial freedom, which is the only thing we're doing with property investing. We're trying to replace our income and create financial freedom. So welcome to today's video. I'm going to unpack this topic in a lot of detail. So sit back, relax, grab a coffee, maybe even get some Baroccas, because we are going to be diving into the world of accounting and tax. But I promise I will make it as interesting as I possibly can, even though it is tax. And like I mentioned before, I hate tax. I've got my accountants doing it for me. I'm not really interested in tax per se. And I'll tell you one thing, the only people that really talk about tax are broke people. I know a lot of rich people that never talk about tax, because when you're rich, guess what? You have a lot of money to get really good accountants that will make all your tax disappear. Legally, of course. We're not here to talk about tax avoidance. We're talking about tax minimization using the Australian system that's available for everyone. So welcome to today's video, and let's get into it. Now, before we get started, I just want to cover a little bit about myself, just in case you have never seen me speak before. Bit of a personal disclaimer: I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm definitely not here to give you any accounting advice or tax advice, because I'm not an accountant, and I'm not qualified to give you that. But I will cover it from an investment perspective, from a strategic perspective, because it is something that is important when you're doing numbers. And I'm going to do a lot of crunching of numbers today, more so than I usually do in my YouTube videos, just to demonstrate a very important point, which will ultimately influence what type of properties you'll be targeting as an investor and what type of properties you'll be avoiding, like a P. Diddy party or a Tina Arena concert. About myself a little bit, obviously I've got a YouTube channel. I've also got a bunch of things that I've done over the years. I've wasted 4 years of my life at Monash University, playing pool at the tavern and drinking beer. Nearly did an MBA, more bad advice. But I thought, you know what, I actually like money. Money's good. Maybe I'll go and get a job. So I've got a diploma of financial services, real estate, mortgage broking, financial planning. I spent most of my career in banking. I was a financier for NAB, and I used to do commercial lending for Medfin, which is a subsidiary of NAB that does medical clinics. So I spent my final years of my lending career running around Melbourne, setting up dental clinics and medical clinics and doing radiology equipment, leasing, and anything from cars to laptops to commercial residential property loans, basically. 11 years ago, I started Investors Prime Real Estate. The most important thing, guys, is that I'm a property investor like yourself, who's been there, done it. I've been investing now for over 2 decades. I'm obsessed with property. It is my passion, my hobby, my healthy obsession, as I call it. And I hope that kind of comes through my videos. So that's the only thing that gives me the right to actually talk to you about this, because I'm actually in the market all day long, talking to accountants, lawyers, talking to clients, helping clients build large property portfolios. So I can see on the inside the impact that land tax has on their portfolios. I'm going to unpack this in a lot of detail today. I'm only going to cover it once because I don't like tax. I think negative gearing and tax are a kind of a very kind of a waste of time topic. You just get a good consultant that can cover it all for you. By the way, I want to thank you guys for buying my books. I've hit #1 multiple times on Amazon and various bookshops. So really congratulations for reading them in the first place, but also really want to thank you for buying them. And you can see there my book on finance and real estate investing has made number one spot multiple times on Amazon, which is pretty much now the biggest market out there. If you want to get a copy for yourself, I'm going to do a bit of a shameless plug before I get into the contents. Jump into realestatemadesimple.com.au, and for the finance one, which teaches you how to do a mortgage reduction program and smash your mortgage in record time, bookonfinance.com.au. This book is specifically relevant now because interest rates are so high. By the way, I wrote this book 10 years ago, and the interest rate that I used in the book for all my examples is 5%. And even though interest rates went down to 2% and now they're up at 7.5, I think 5% is a really cool number to use when you're doing examples of mortgage reduction programs. And, you know, it's a nice, easy number to understand because multiples of 5 are easy to understand. So nothing's really changed in the last 10 years in the mortgage reduction programs or how to set up your property portfolio correctly, compounding, offset accounts, all those things we need to understand as investors. That book is as relevant today as it was 10 years ago when it was first published. So definitely get a copy. It is decades of wisdom that I've accumulated in the banking and financial services sector. All right, enough of that. Let's talk about the land tax and landlords. Now, the reason I'm doing this topic in the first place is, number one, I'm getting a lot of emails from people asking me, you know, land tax, what's the impact of land tax on different properties, which I'll unpack today. The other thing I'm getting is also a lot of requests just from talking to clients about land tax and how it impacts serviceability and cash flow on different properties. And that's what I want to focus on today, because ultimately, I'm not here to educate you on accounting and land tax. This is not what this YouTube channel is designed to do. I'm here to show you where the money is. That's simple. What to avoid, what to do, how to make money, how to maximize money. And remember, with what I teach is buy and hold blue chip properties long term. That's the strategy that I've been implementing myself as an investor, and that's what I teach on my YouTube channel. So it's really about giving you the nitty-gritty micro level stuff that investors need to be aware of in order to make informed decisions so you guys can go out there and make money. And by the way, you can make money in anywhere in any market in Australia using my methodology. It's not restricted to Victoria. But for the purpose of today, we will be specifically talking about the land tax changes in Victoria. So I'm going to jump into the State Revenue Office because that is the source of the information, and that's the best way to get unbiased data. Whenever there's land tax changes or any kind of changes in negative gearing, guys, don't go to legal accounting firm websites. Go straight to the source, the ATO, or go to the State Revenue Office and read their information directly, and then perhaps get clarification from an accountant and from a lawyer. So let's get into a bit of terminology because I want to get this perfectly 100% correct. And then we're going to show you some examples of properties and implications of buying various properties and what it means for land tax and cash flow analysis for property investors. Because remember, at the moment, with interest rates being 7.5%, cash flow for property investors is like oxygen. You run out of it, you're dead in the water, and you fall behind with your repayments, your credit file gets smashed, then you can't refinance, can't get equity out, it's a disaster. You always need to have buffers in place. That's the key. So what is land tax? Land tax is, and this is straight from the State Revenue Office of which gives you all the definitions. Land tax is the annual tax based on the total taxable value of all land you own in Victoria, excluding exempt land such as your home, PPR. So obviously your home is land tax excluded. Land tax is calculated using the site value determined by the value of General Victoria of all taxable land you own as of midnight on the 31st of December of the year preceding the year of assessment. So it's for the previous year preceding the year of assessment. A lot of people don't know that. You may have to pay land tax if you own either individually or joint with others investment properties, including residential rental properties, commercial properties such as retail shops, office premises and factories, holiday homes, and vacant land. Land tax assessments are generally issued between January and June each year. Land tax exemptions are applicable to your home, your PPR. Obviously, you don't pay land tax on the land value of your home, which is a great thing because you can nominate your PPR every 6 years as well. And so if you've got a large property portfolio, the idea is to build up wealth by focusing on specific investment properties, which I'll show you an example today. But then if you like land, and not everyone's into big blocks of land. A lot of people love little townhouses or terrace homes in the city where they have a very small footprint, or apartments or penthouses. Personally, I love the backyard. I love barbecues and parties and pool parties. We have lots of them in our house. We've got a huge parcel of land with a pool, and I'm a big fan of pool parties. In fact, half the summer I'm virtually at a all day barbecue pool party at my place. So the good thing is you want to tie up your money, and the biggest parcel of land you should own should be your PPR, because then you're not paying any land tax on it. And your investment properties, logically speaking, should have the smallest value of land in order to increase cash flow, which I'll show you what that means in a second. I'm just jumping ahead of myself a little bit. Your farm as your primary production land, PPL, and rooming houses and charitable institutions. If you start leasing your home, your principal place of residence, or change the address, the exemption ends, and you must notify us immediately, us being the State Revenue Office. Paying your assessment, there are 3 ways to pay your land tax assessment: via credit or debit, BPay, or installments. If you choose to auto pay, you can pay your land tax assessment in fortnightly, monthly, or 4 equal payments up to 38 weeks of the issue date of your assessment. And this is important because when you're doing cash flow analysis, especially with negative gearing, if you're doing things like income tax withholding variation forms, you might, if you've got a big land tax, you might stagger your payments and to coincide with your income, with your rental. Like, so strategically you can actually plan for these things rather than just getting one lump sum and then having to deal with it. So 38 weeks from the issue date of assessment. Auto pay installments must be set up annually as installments account change depending on your tax liability. You can create auto pay arrangements through My Land Tax. It's important to pay or set up a payment arrangement on time to avoid late payments, interest, and recovery action. I have everything set up on auto pay, guys. I love auto pay. I don't want to think about this stuff. All I want to know is each month, what am I up in terms of liabilities for the next month? So everything's on auto pay, direct debits. I use PayPal for most of my stuff because PayPal is really good at clawing money back from institutions. Just so you know, last year I was involved in 2 scams where people tried to use my credit card in Spain. And another time they tried to use my credit card in America. And look, Westpac was really cool. They rang me up. It was in the middle of the night, and they said, "We know you're not in Spain because you just spent some money in Eastland. So we've frozen your credit card. Just so you know, your credit card's been hacked. We're going to issue with new credit cards." Another time in America, they actually rang me up and said, "Did you buy this item for $800 and something? Because we weren't sure if it's you or not. We've put a hold on to the transaction." I said, "It wasn't me. I've never bought anything there." They said, "Cool, we thought so," and they basically stopped the transaction from going ahead. So it's good with the PayPal and stuff like that. You've got another layer of insurance just in case something happens, and then obviously the PayPal takes money out of your nominated account. But also just with normal banks, you want to make sure you've got that protection in place. I don't want to get just bills randomly sent to me for land tax. So if you look at the land component, obviously when you're buying an investment property, you have the land and you've got the building, okay, on top of it. Now, basically, if the property is brand new, depending on the type of property, there'll be an even split between land and build. I mean, it depends on the suburb, obviously, but if you're looking at a house and land package for $4 million, it'll be probably 500 build, 500 land. The older the property, as the house depreciates, more value is assigned in suburbs to the land, and especially with the buildings over 40 years old, they're completely depreciated. So there is no value in the building at all. It's all pure land value. Now, people always say things like, buy the best street, or buy the worst house in the best street. Land goes up, buildings depreciate. That's all true, but so what? What does that mean? So I'll show you, I'll unpack all this in detail today, because I think some of you will be surprised in terms of what this will impact your cash flow analysis and your decision-making model when buying investment properties. So from 0 to 50,000, you pay no land tax. Now, land tax obviously is applicable on land only. From 50,000 to 100,000, you pay $500. No big deal, right? From 100,000 to 300,000, $975. Nothing. I mean, $1,000, who cares, right? From 300 to 600, you pay 1,350 plus 0.3 of amount under 300,000, which means you pay 2,250. Now that's pretty much the maximum that most of my clients pay on their townhouses between kind of 1,350 to 2,250. Because if you look at an average townhouse that I'm sourcing through Investors Prime Real Estate, it's about $1.2 million. The townhouse is usually 700 and the land is usually 500. So you're paying kind of 1,500, if you're going into a gentrification suburb, like for example, Sunshine, which I'm a big fan of, Sunshine North, or going to Heidelberg Heights or West, usually the land is very small as a component because it's only 150 square meters of land per townhouse. So you're paying kind of $1,000 in land tax. Now, this is the interesting thing that happens. When you get to 600,000 to $1 million, you're paying 2,250 plus 0.6% up to 600,000. So for 600,000, you might have a $1 million home, which is average, 400 for the build, 600 for the land. You're paying 4,650. That hurts, right? That's nearly $5,000. That's $50 a week. That can impact your cash flow. Now, from $1 million to 1.8 million, you're paying 4,650 plus 0.9% of the amount over that amount up to $1 million. So you're paying up to 11,850 for $1.8 million worth of land. That is a lot. That's $10,000, right? That's $100, $200 a week. I mean, that's a lot of money. So 5,000 is $100 a week, 5,200. I'm just generalizing here. 1.8 million to 3 million, you're paying 11,850 plus 1.65% of the amount up to 1.8 million. So for 1.8 million, you're paying $31,000, which is up to 3 million. Sorry, so you're paying 31,650. That's a lot of money. And see, the problem is this: a lot of investors, I don't know where this comes from because it's complete nonsense, buy land because land goes up and buildings appreciate. Yeah, that's true, but so what? You can only buy one of them. So if you buy a block of land in Doncaster, for example, or Bentley, and the house is $2 million, the house is written off. It's the 1950s. It's worth nothing, right? And you're paying, you're paying $2 million for it, for example. You'd be paying $12,000 in land tax per year. It's virtual land. So it is mathematically not a good idea anymore to buy houses. Well, technically, you can't own 10 old houses on big 1,000 square meter blocks anymore, unless you're going to be putting in tens of thousands of dollars per month into the negative cash flow. Because the idea is with your portfolio is to make it cash flow neutral. So the taxman and the tenant pay for your whole property. Now, with land tax, that is virtually impossible because your cash flow will never cover the shortfall. I'm going to unpack this in detail and show you what that means. So if you, for example, do a $300,000, this is straight from the calculator on the State Revenue Office. You can jump online, basically, and do this for yourself to get a very accurate depiction of how much land tax you're up for. So in 2024, if you've got a block of land, let's say you've got a townhouse or a house, will be a very small house, 300,000 land value, you're paying 350. 500, you're paying 1950. So 500 will be like the average townhouse for 1.2, 1.5 that I'm selling in through Investors Prime Real Estate. So you're looking at Carnegie, you're looking at your good suburbs, Baldwin, Bentley, Brighton East, 1.2, 1.5. But look what happens when you get to 750, and that's a problem because then it's $3,000. Now that's very rare. I mean, this is for townhouses, you have to be up to $2 million mark plus 2.5. But when you get to $1 million in land value, you're paying 4.5 or 4,650. 1.5 million, 9,150. 2 million, 15,000. See, $2 million, you can still get a good townhouse like in Brighton for that, or Brighton East, or for example, Baldwin North, where you're getting kind of 1,500, 1,600 a week. We did a bunch of them in Brighton East in Lancox Park. But the land component was very small. It was only like 110 square meters. If your value of your property is predominantly made up of land, which means it's not a new build, it's an older house on a block, you're going to be smashed with land tax, which means the rental will never cover your expenses. And I'll show you how this works in a second. And this is the reality why only 0.9% of investors have more than 6 properties, because they focused on the right things, where the others buy largely on emotion and no rational due diligence or any kind of fundamentals. Most investors buy a property within 3 to 5 k's of where they live, so they can keep an eye on it. So then they're driving to work, they can pass it by. Oh shit, there's 6 cars in there. Better bring up, the property manager. Why is there 6 cars in the driveway? What are they doing? So, this is what people do. They live in an area. They live in Point Cook. They buy 10 properties in Point Cook, or 5. They live in Bentley. They buy 4 properties in Bentley. It's a comfort zone thing. It's got nothing to do with strategy or any kind of rational fundamentals. You're just buying the comfort zone. So you've got to be able to separate emotion from your buying behavior. That's as silly as saying, oh, I only go to Shell petrol station, so I'm going to buy Shell shares. I don't like BHP because I don't like the petrol station. Or I shop at Aldi, so I'm not going to buy coal shares. I mean, just silly stuff, Just because you live somewhere doesn't mean anything. You should be investing purely based on fundamentals and making money. And you live wherever you want to live emotionally, wherever it makes you happy. That's the reality. You've got to separate the two guys, because most of the time, the number one failure for property investors is people who keep buying around where they live, because they're just lazy. I don't know if it's a laziness thing or just pure ignorance that they just don't want to go outside this comfort zone. There is no advantage of you being 500 meters or next door from an investment property and then having the property 10 k's away from you. You can't access the property legally anyway. And there's any damage to the property, it goes through insurance. So there's no proximity advantage with being close to your property, Like, I don't understand why there's such a safe, like, what are you going to do if it's on fire? You're going to get the hose out and start putting it, like, what are you going to do? You can't do anything, right? It's so silly. Like, just because you can see something happening doesn't mean you can intervene in any significant way. So let's unpack the 3 types of properties you can buy. Townhouses, houses, and apartments, okay? And I'm going to show you the impact of land tax when it comes to your selection criteria, things you should consider, and questions to ask, and how you look at the different selection criteria. Now, first, let's get rid of apartments altogether, because apartments just don't work in Victoria. I don't see them working for a long time. There's volume that's record low. Even though construction has gone up, they just don't do it, guys. You're not going to get any growth, even in the best suburbs: Hawthorne, Toorak, Malvern, Kew, Baldwin, Brighton, Sandringham. There's no growth. And I've been watching them very carefully, because I actually want to get into them, because they're cheaper than townhouses and houses. I've seen properties, and forget about, like, when people show me properties in Footscray or Caroline Springs. I mean, what are you, in drugs? No one's to live in apartments in Footscray or Caroline Springs. You live in a house there. That's why you go there in the first place. But let's talk about upmarket suburbs. Like, if you go to, like, Hawthorne, for example, or Baldwin or Kew, and you have an apartment, like, let's say boutique, 6, 7 apartments opposite a park in the school zone, you would think they would go up in value, and they haven't gone up in value at all in 10 years' time. I mean, I'm just amazed that even with inflation at 4%, peaking at 7.8, that those prices weren't dragged up just because of replacement value and inflation. Like, you would think that, they would. And so let's say, for example, 2-bedders that are 80 square meters, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, single car garage, 80 square meters to 90 square meters. I mean, 10 years ago, you could have bought them for 10,000 a square meter. They're still selling for 10,000 a square meter. It's just crazy. So if they're 800, 80 square meters, you're paying 800,000. 90 square meters, you're paying 900,000. They just haven't done anything in the last 10 years. And I'm really concerned that if I start recommending them too early and people will jump in, they won't get any equity quickly enough to go again very quickly. With townhouses, you can. Now, having said that, I did a video a while back, because Chartercat Kramer, one of the most reputable valuers in Australia, created a report saying that apartments are going to go up in price at least 10% in the next 12 months. And the logic was sound. And I spoke to a lot of developers that do apartments, and they said to me that they are increasing prices, and they are increasing because of the increases of cost of materials and construction materials and shortage of labor. But I haven't seen that translate back into capital growth pressure on existing stock. So yes, there's new stock that's coming at a higher price point, but the old stock is still selling for the same prices. And that's the thing. Now, eventually, the price differential between new and old will be so great, the old stock will come up. When that will happen, I don't know. It probably will happen in 2 or 3 years when we peak in the cycle, but it's a big risk. So if you are just starting out, don't even touch apartments. Now, if you're a seasoned investor, you got 5, 6, 7, 10 properties, and you want to maybe throw in an apartment to diversify, no problem. Or if you want to live in an apartment, no problem at all. But apartments, generally speaking, have been it's just been a disaster. I actually did this video back in 2001 explaining like if you're going to buy an apartment, watch this video because it explains right down to layouts, dead space, configuration, lending restrictions, all those things you got to be aware of on apartments. So it is in 21. But even then, I was saying stay away from them, guys. I did another video, which is just recent, which I mentioned before, about the apartment market bottoming out, and the volume of stock is record low as well. So we have two things happening. We've got no new stock on the market. We have massive pressure on existing stock in terms of replacement costs. And even then you would think something would change, and it just hasn't. It's just crazy. So it's a bit of a disaster, guys. Stay away from it. Stay tuned to my YouTube channel, and when there is a good time to buy, I'll be back sourcing, because I'm getting offers all day long of apartments. Now, if you want to live in an apartment and it's a PPR, and like, let's say, for example, you want to live in Melbourne, in a specific part of Melbourne next to the main strip there, next to a park, yeah, get in. This is the time to buy because you can get discounts now, especially on existing stock. Or if you want to buy off the plan and kind of take a guesstimated, educated gamble and settle at the peak of the market, maybe this is a good time to buy as well. But if you want to buy with the intention of having equity in the next 12 months that you can unlock to go again, it's the worst time to buy. And I don't even know if that's going to be relevant for the next 2 years. So, this is the problem. Is the Main reported that investors are growing tired of losing money and then dumping Melbourne apartments at a loss of more than 40%. You can see there, this is the actual, the rents plummeting as well, but just selling apartments, people have lost 40%. Remember, rentals are going crazy on townhouses in the Bayside, the eastern suburbs, even in gentrification suburbs. Like I'm doing a lot of Heidelberg Heights, Heidelberg West, Sunshine, and those areas, Glenroy, and even in Glenroy, which is like one of the worst gentrification suburbs. It's just so bad demographically. Rentals are going up. New townhouses are getting built, and people are just paying a premium. But in apartments, rentals are going backwards. 29%, 27% for Docklands, 24% for South Bank, Carlton, West Melbourne. Carlton and West Melbourne are great for townhouses and houses, horrible for apartments. East Melbourne, Albert Park, top 10 suburb in Melbourne, North Melbourne, top 50 suburb in Melbourne. And yet for apartments, they just can't get that traction. So for me, apartments are out, guys. Forget about them for now. And there's been many articles talking about median prices for one type of property has barely gone up in value despite the Australian record housing boom. And it's a lesson for every first home buyer. One bedroom apartments prices hardly rose in 21 despite the property boom. So even when we had the last boom in 21, because remember, since 21 we've come down. So when we had the last boom, even then, during the boom in 2001, one-bedroom apartments remained unchanged at 395,000, which is interesting. What is interesting, though, is that for the same time, houses rose 18.6% to a new median price for the country of $1.1 million. Apartments in general still had a luxury year with two-bedroom units growing at 4.5%. So even at the boom, houses were doing 18.6 and townhouses were doing around 18.6, depending on the suburb. Yet apartments were doing 4.5. Now, three-bedroom apartments, so the boutique stock where you have three-bedroom, three-car garages, they go for a lot more, though. We're talking an average of kind of 1.2 to 1.7. They did 12.1%. So what's happening is there's a lot of people that have an old, let's say you have an old house in Mont Albert. Your kids have gone, you've got 5 bedrooms, 1,000 square meters of land. You're not into gardening, you want to travel. So you would sell that down and buy into a boutique apartment complex in Hawthorne where there's 6 of them. You might have the one on the ground floor. You still have like a 250 square meter garden. You've got, parquetry floors, high end. appliances, high ceilings, very private, maybe 3 or 4 car garages, and you lock that up, you go overseas for 6 months, you don't need to worry about anything because there's owners corporation, there's other people in that complex that can keep an eye out on your furniture, on the situation, and usually have extremely high security as well. So that's okay. That's doing kind of double-digit growth. But the average two-bedder, we're talking about 700,000-800,000, disaster completely, virtually no growth at all. In fact, going backwards, I've seen some fires sold. We've seen, just so you know, because I talk to brokers all day long and accountants, the amount of people that have bought in Docklands and South Bank 10 years ago for $695, where they buy a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, single car garage, typical balcony overlooking the city, and you're looking at, probably between 65 square meters up to 90 square meters, depending on the building. And they're paying you $3,000 to $4,000 in owners corporation every year. They're selling them now for the same price, even less, $650. So 10 years later, you buy an asset for $695 and you're selling it for $650. I mean, it's a disaster. That's why the gap between detached houses and apartments is very wide now, which is nearly double. It's now up to 1,500,000. So it's 52% gap between detached houses and apartments, and the gap is going to get wider and wider. Because people don't want apartments, they want to have a backyard. Even with townhouses, you still have a backyard, which is the advantage of having a townhouse. And you can see there, this is the gap. So property prices in Melbourne, in terms of apartments, are stagnating, and townhouses and houses are going up. And ironically, the volume of in the pipeline of future apartments, we should be, over 10-year average is 3,300 apartments per year. The volume is so low now, you would think supply and demand would kick in and these properties would actually go up, but they haven't, which is a surprise to everyone. And the amount of developments that have been shelved by developers because they can't get pre-sales, they can't even get the project off the ground, is staggering. I've seen so many cancelled projects in Melbourne in really good suburbs. Forget about the city and South Bank and Docklands. I'm talking South Yarra, East Melbourne, Richmond, Cremorne. I'm talking about Caulfield. I'm talking about even boutique ones around Bentley, Ormond, McKinnon, Burwood, shelved. They can't get the pre-sales. There's no appetite in the market for them. They give up on them, because they know the longer they hold on to them, with interest payments where they are and interest rates being high, they're going to erode the whole margin. It's just a huge risk for those developers if we get started. So once again, apartments out. Now, so what we have now is townhouses and houses. Now let's compare, how does land tax impact townhouses and houses? Now, by the way, with apartments, because you don't own the land, you've only got a small land tax component, but you have a ratio of the footprint. And most apartments are built on a small block of, let's say, 1,000 square meters, but you might have 100 apartments. So you might only own 10, a meter or a meter and a half of land. So your land tax is going to be very small in apartments. But remember, we're not here to minimize tax. We're here to make money. And the secondary consideration is to maximize tax deductions. Now, let me give you an example of a townhouse versus an old house in Carnegie. Carnegie is a very good upper middle class suburb in Melbourne. It's always been the top 100, 150 best suburbs out of the 321 existing suburbs that make up Melbourne. It's surrounded by very good shopping, very good schools. It's in the southeastern part of Melbourne. You've got Chatston Shopping Centre. You've got a lot of yuppies, a lot of high-income earners, very good cafes, very good primary schools, very good access to the city. You've got Monash University, you've got the train station, you've got Caulfield Racecourse. It's a lifestyle area. It's a very nice suburb. And especially in the last 10 years, Carnegie has even gone up a notch with a lot of wine bars, 24-hour gyms opening up. A lot more money is flowing into Carnegie. A lot of the older houses are getting redeveloped into brand new high-end townhouses. So I'm a big fan of Carnegie. I've been sourcing in Carnegie for the last 10 years, very consistently. Everything like Malvern East, Hughesdale's more for houses, but Murrumbina, Carnegie, definitely Malvern East have been really good for rental and for capital growth. So this is it's definitely a lifestyle area in Melbourne. It's just so easy to live there. So let me show you an example. This is a development in Tranmere Street in Carnegie that I sold, which is unit number 1 of 14, Tranmere Street. It's completed 100%, and it sold for in 2023 for 1.4 million. I want to show you a real example in cash flow analysis comparing an old house and a townhouse, same price. What is the impact of the new land tax legislation on those properties in terms of cash flow for you as an investor? Because I think you're going to be blown away by the information, and potentially my motivation for doing this is to save you from making mistakes and having years of frustration where you're not getting capital growth and you're not getting the desired outcome that you want from your property portfolio. So you can see there, it sold for off the plan 1.4 million. It was completed. It got sold in 23. So there's the actual finished product. This is artist impressions, and then this is the actual real product completed. So this is like my bread and butter townhouse that I sell and source all day long. Very much targeting young urban professional couples with no children, which is your number one tenant. No kids, no pets. Young couple, they work in banking, financial service sector, medical sector. They travel, they have nice European cars, nice furniture, they don't party, they don't do drugs, they don't destroy your property. This is the actual property, that's the actual views. Carnegie is a very nice suburb, so plenty of light, plenty of open space. All builders range, by the way, nothing extraordinary about the fixtures and fittings. There's a balcony there, so you can have a bit of a barbecue, chill out. So you can look at the ground floor, you have 2-car garage, then you've got this kind of retreat area, which could be an office if you want it to be. Then you've got a bit of a courtyard. And then on the first floor, you have open plan living. You have a laundry, a walk-in laundry and a powder room. And then you've got a kitchen, island bench top. Then you have a dining area, the living area, and a huge balcony wrapping around the property. And then upstairs in the second level, you've got 3 bedrooms with the master bedroom, and then you've got 2 other bedrooms with a toilet. So, it's a perfect combination of 3 bedrooms, double lock-up garage, 2.5 bathrooms, 238 square meters. The land component is very small because you can see there in the subdivision, you can see that the actual shaded area is a townhouse. So he only has this footprint of about 100 square meters, 150 square meters, which is going to be very low on land tax. Think about this. If it was an old house with the whole block of land, you'd be paying land tax on the whole thing. So you've got a ratio here of you're paying virtually a fifth of the land tax on the townhouse compared to buying a house in Carnegie. Okay, now let's have a look at an example of a Carnegie property that was very similar in terms of the block, the whole block, which is 592 square meters. Obviously, it's not subdivided. It's only a house. It's an original house, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, unrenovated, same price, 1.4 million. Okay, it's just an example. And these are this represents a typical property in Carnegie from the 1950s. It was obviously renovated probably in the 90s at some stage, judging by the kitchen. So just a typical, house from the 50s, 60s even. There's your backyard, very functional. So the advantage of buying the old house is you got a big block of land. You can subdivide, you can sell, but the rental is only 2.4%, which is much lower than on the other property. The other property is getting $1,200 a week rental. This one's getting $780. So let's compare the two in terms of numbers, because this is what I want you to focus on as an investor. It's not about buying pretty properties that you can show your friends. It's about doing the right combination of numbers. So you can see that the biggest difference between both of them is that roughly the original block was the same size, roughly about 600 square meters, but the actual townhouse only has 125 square meters, where the old detached house has 592 square meters. So obviously the value predominantly of that 1.4 million is locked up in the land in the old house, where with the townhouse, it's locked up in the build, which depreciates over 40 years. The land value in a new townhouse is 400,000. The land value in the detached old house is 1.25, and the house is worth 150,000. So you can see there, because the house is depreciated now, it's more than 40 years old. Land tax is only $1,650 for the townhouse. It's $7,350 for the old house. Now, the rental yield is 4.5% on the new townhouse, which is $1,200 a week, which we're getting at the moment on that development. And there's 2 other projects around the corner, literally, that we're getting the same amounts for. 3 bedders in Carnegie are renting from $1,200, even $1,250 per week, depending on the project. The house is renting for 2.97%, which is $800 a week. So the rental per year on the townhouse is $63,000. On the old house, it's $41,600. Depreciation is also high because you get to depreciate the building for the new townhouse, over 40 years, where there's no depreciation anymore on the building or fixtures and fittings for the old property. So the depreciation is on the fixtures and fittings. It's about 30 grand worth of fixtures and fittings. So you have kitchens, cabinetry, joinery, air conditioners, hot water system, all that stuff. That's a lifespan of between 1 and 15 years. There's no depreciation or anything in the old detached house because it's all over, past the depreciation threshold. Future maintenance in a new townhouse, it's minimum because you have factory warranty on all the appliances for 5 years, and you got a structural warranty for 7 years. With an old 50-year-old house, God knows what can happen. And I've got old houses from the 50s, guys. It's always plumbing, electricals. It's always expensive. It's never like 2 grand. It's always 15, 30 grand, 40 grand. I've got roofs that I've got to spend 60,000 fixing up. Plumbing's huge. When plumbing bursts in an old 50s house, you got to rip out sections of walls, new concrete, new walls got to be put in. It's super expensive, right? Tenant quality. Well, if in Carnegie, if someone's spending $1,200 a week, you're going to get a high value tenants, right? White collar professional working in the banking, financial service sector, medical sector. If you're paying $800 a week, you're going to get to low to moderate tenant quality. The cheaper the rental, and I'm not judging people by income, guys. I'm just keeping it real here, right? So the lower the income, the lower the actual person in terms of their job, and therefore the propensity to damage the property and to not be able to meet the rental obligations. Future risk for townhouses, low. For houses, high from a cash flow perspective. Now I'm not talking about capital growth here. You mentioned you would have seen. Okay, I'm just talking about purely land tax and cash flow analysis. Okay, now let's do some cash flow analysis, and I'll come back to capital growth in a second. Okay, so let's do a comparison of the townhouse. This is the cash flow analysis of the townhouse. This was purchased by a client who had the income of $250,000 per year, which is what you really need now to borrow $1.4 million. Growth is 8%. I want to keep the growth just the same for the illustration purposes of this exercise, but the growth on the house will always be higher than the townhouse. Houses, because they have land, will always outperform a townhouse in the same suburb, leaving everything equal. But that's not the question. The question isn't which one's going to give you the highest capital growth. The question is, of which one can I buy of the most in order to replace my income and create financial independence? And it's not the old house on the big block, because as you're going to see, it's mathematically impossible to do so. Taxable income is 250 grand per year. So property price is 1.4 million. And these are real numbers from the actual transaction for the townhouse, not for the house, because the house I just plugged out of realestate.com. So property price 1.4 million, conveyancing costs 2,500, stamp duty 77,000, transfer of title 3,378. So purchase costs $82,878. Then you've got LMI, 1.5%, and costs associated with the loan, $21,000, which you can depreciate that and claim it as a tax deduction over 5 years. So the investment you have is 10% deposit, which is 140,000, and then you got purchase costs of 82,878, which is 222,878, and that equity was taken out of a property to buy this property. Okay, now you've got the loan type is interest only 6.5%, so the loan is 1,281,000. Loan cost, as I mentioned before, can be written over 5 years, which is $21,101. Monthly repayments, $6,939. Annual repayments, $83,272. Rent per week is $1,200. So it's $62,400 per year. Vacancy rate 2%. Annual rent, $61,152. Then you've got expenses associated with the property. You got cash expenses and you got depreciation on the property. Now, cash expenses are real things that you got to pay for. Depreciation are theoretical expenses, but they are treated kind of the same when it comes to accounting and tax. So you have property management fee, which is $4,790. Letting fee $1,200. That's to advertise the property on realestate.com domain, take all the photographs. Council rate $1,780. Landlord insurance $305. That covers you for accidental and malicious damage to the property. So if they burn down your kitchen or drop an iron on your carpet, you get new for old replacement. Land tax is $1,650, and then water connection fee $996. Which we have to pay for as landlords in Victoria, which is silly. So your total expenses are $11,990, which is 19.21% of the actual rent, which is cool. You want that to be between 20 and 25% maximum. Your net yield is 3.51. Your gross is around 4.7. So you're losing about 1.2% in expenses, which is standard, rule of thumb when you're working out cash flow analysis. Okay. And then what you have is depreciation on the building, which is 700,000, 2.5% over 40 years, which is 17,500. And then you got depreciation on fixtures and fittings, which is your cabinetry, joinery, carpets, appliances, air conditioners, everything, oven, dishwasher, 25,000. So you get 4,271. And I've used diminishing value, so you get more upfront while you're waiting for it to be cash flow positive. And the loan cost can be written over 5 years at 21,101. So these are your deductions in the first year on the property. I know this sounds like huge numbers, but these are real numbers. So the first one is interest on the loan, $83,271. Expenses, which is your council rates, land tax, $11,970. Depreciation on the building, which is 17,500 over 40 years. Depreciation on fixtures and fittings, 4,270. Loan costs and total deductions, 121,252, which is huge. Now, and that's a big amount of money. So this person on 250, you can see that this is what I want you to focus on. This is the bottom line with property, is this table. If you understand these tables, you're going to become successful. If you've never seen this table before, if you don't understand how this works, you're going to be in trouble when it comes to cash flow analysis. So you have the property value, 1.4 million, your equity based on 8% growth. You've got your rental, which goes up just above inflation at 6% in Carnegie. Total deductions, which are going down gradually, and then as things have wear and tear. So then you've got your pre-tax cash flow, 34,109. You got your tax credit from the ATO, which is 28,247, which means you're negative 5,864 for the year, which is pretty cool. And then the next year, your cash flow negative 4,105, then 2,758, and then year 4, 1,170, and your cash flow positive in year 5 by $616. So this person on 250 income, this is how you do the calculations, by the way, for your tax credits. So he's on 250, rental income gets added to your job income, which is a 61,152. So the total income goes to 311,152 minus deductions of 121,252. New taxable income drops down on paper to 189,900. The current tax that this person was paying on 250 income was 90,597. The new tax was 189,900, which is 62,350, saving 28,247 in tax. So look at that, it's 30 grand nearly. And how many properties would they need to buy to have this tax to zero? Three or four, and the tax is legally to zero. So this is my frustration with engineering people. If you're listening to this, do you know over the last 10 years, I would have seen 100 engineering people. None of them have ever bought a property. None of them, right? I haven't got one engineering client. I've got every job imaginable as clients: surgeons, barristers, police officers, farmers, every imaginable profession, primary school teachers, graphic design artists, people that work for Bob Jane T-Mart, personal trainers, like you name it, I've got it, except engineering. No one in engineering has ever bought a property through my company. And I show them these numbers, they get the numbers, they ask questions, they make 250 grand a year, and then every year they just continue to pay tax. Like they're the smartest, dumbest people that I've ever come across in my whole life, because they understand numbers, but they just refuse to invest in property. And like, if you bought this property, it's worth 100 grand more than when it was sold down, probably 150, and you've eaten up 30 grand of your tax. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? None of them have ever bought a property. Not one engineering person in 10 years of my company. It's great. It's crazy. You guys know who you are. You're watching this video right now. You know who you are, right? So going back to this table, this property will be cash flow negative. So this is the thing. Okay, so 5,000, let's make this 10. So 15 grand before it's cash flow positive, right? But look at this, in year 10, you're making 1.7 million based on 8% compounding. So I'm asking you, if you give me 15 grand check today, I'll give you 1.7 million in 10 years time, which is the average of 170,000 per year average over 10 years. You know, so remember, property is about capital growth. It's all about capital growth, guys. That's why it's called capitalism. The rich grow capital, and then they leave off the capital by selling assets, getting equity out, and having a lifestyle. The poor chase cash flow, because they think, oh, if I can just get $500 a week, I can replace my income. And this is the difference between the rich and the poor. It's always the same. It's capitalism. It's about capital, growing capital, not cash flow. Cash flow is not king, guys. Cash flow is nothing. Cash flow will send you poor. It's about growing your equity, and then if you pay this off, this property in year 10, you're getting 100 grand in rental. So if you buy 5, sell say 3, pay off 2, you're on 200 grand passive income. But it's about capital growth in the first instance, right? Now let's have a look at the house, right? The same thing. This is the house, right? 1.4 mil. The biggest problem with the house is, and the council, by the way, the house is going to do more than 8% growth. If the townhouse is doing 8%, the house will do 10, 11% growth, no problem. A house with a big block in the same suburb will always outperform the townhouse. But so what? That's not the question. But you can't buy 10 of them. That's the problem, guys. You can buy 10 townhouses with the right mathematics and structures, but you can't afford to hold 10 old houses. It is impossible. That ship has sailed in major capital cities. And I'll show you why. So you got 1.4 million, same closing costs, 82,000, right? Same lending costs, same everything, same amount of money put into the property as before. Interest only loan, 6.5. I'm comparing apples to apples here. Now, the biggest difference is the rental's 800 a week, the other one's 1,200 a week. That's a huge difference, okay? Now, same costs with agents' commissions, council rates. It's all pretty much, except for land tax, 7,350, not 1,650. So 6,000, nearly 6 grand more. Okay, that's a huge difference. Then you have no depreciation on the building because it's over 40 years old, and you have no depreciation on fixtures and fittings, right? So you have much more less tax deductions. And the problem is this. This is the problem. You have a shortfall of 28,875 in the first year, 27,912, 26,000. Look at this. It's cash flow positive in year 19, where the other one is cash flow positive much sooner. So even though you are getting tax credits, you're getting the same tax credits, just because the rental's so low and you're not getting anything back in depreciation, and your land tax is killing you, right? Because the land tax is so high. So for the same person, you're still getting the same tax credits, still 29,000, right? You'll still max out. The problem is, how are you going to contribute 28 grand after tax in the first year? Where with the other property, you're putting in 5,861, which is $100 a week. So this is the problem, guys, with these properties. With the townhouse, it becomes cash flow positive in year 4, 5, 6, 7, depending on which part of the property cycle you buy it in, right? Your tax credits are the same, right? Because you're claiming the same things. The problem is this, guys. Look at the cash flow implications of a new townhouse versus the detached house. And I want you to, don't take my word for it. Go to any suburb that's established. I'm not talking about, Point Cook or Truganina. I'm talking about go to a normal suburb that's high growth, right? Top 100. Choose a house with a big block of land, 700 to 1,000 square meters. Choose a townhouse that's 100 square meters and do the numbers yourself. You can download this software. It's called the Property Investor Analysis software. And then work out the mathematics. See, mathematically, no one can afford to pay 30 grand after tax for 10 properties, because that's more than the person's earning. They're only earning 250 grand a year, right? That means they have to make like 700,000 to pay that, and they'll even live. And for look how many years, nearly 19 years. But everyone can afford to pay 5,862 and then 4,000. It's 15 grand, guys, before it's cash flow positive. And then it's done. And then it's self-sustained. That's the reason why You cannot build wealth through buy and hold blue chip areas, major capital cities, buying old houses with the new land tax reform laws that have come into fruition in Victoria. It is impossible. Mathematically, you won't service the debt. And even if you do get the loan, let's say you because I could get the loan even if you don't service. I have private equity lending. I have lawyers that lend money. You won't be able to pay the shortfall. You'll run out of money. That's the problem. And it's because of land tax. And number two is there's no depreciation on old houses. And also the rental yield is much lower. People pay a premium to be in a brand new 3-bedroom townhouse with marble floors and, you know, all the mod cons versus an old house with a garage that doesn't work, you know, with the roller door. How are you going to put the car in there? You're going to be rolling. You know, you can't even open the garage. You got to be a power lifter to lift up those old doors, right? So no one wants them, and that's why the rental is so low. And this is the problem. This property here is negative $113 per week, and you have 5 years of losses. This one's $550 a week and 19 years of losses. But look at the difference: 5,000 versus 28,000. It's impossible to buy the old house. That's the problem. So if you're buying, so there's nothing wrong with buying one house, okay, if you can afford to, or two. But if you want to replace your income, if you want to build up a property portfolio, which is what I teach at my live events, of 7 to 10 properties with the new land tax, you cannot do it with old houses, guys. It is mathematically impossible, and practically it is impossible because you can't make up the shortfall anymore. And apartments, don't worry about apartments for now. They're gone. So yeah. So the average shortfall on the new townhouse is between $50 to $100 a week. 5 years, it's cash flow neutral or positive, depending on where you buy and how well you buy in the property cycles. And by the way, we've got properties in Blackrock, St Kilda that are cash flow positive from day one. You know, so because they took 2 years to build, by the time they were completed, the rental shot up 30% and the cash flow positive. The old house, it's 500 to 1,000. I've seen even 2,000 per week shortfall. How are you going to put $2,000 after tax for every year for 20 years into an old house? It's unsustainable. Yes, it will outperform the townhouse. And this is the hardest distinction to understand, guys, by novice investors. Property investing is about making money. It's not about buying pretty properties on big blocks. It's about investing, which is to make money. And you must fall in love with the numbers, not the aesthetics of the property. So in terms of content versus context, in terms of content, yes, an old house on a big block will outperform a new townhouse. No problems. Completely agree in 99% of blue chip areas. But in the context of building wealth, which is the reason we're doing this, it is mathematically impossible for you to buy 10 old houses on average income. So in the context of, so if you're asking the question of which property outperforms which property, that's the wrong question to ask. In the context. In the contents, it's the right property question to ask because it's the old house on the big block, you know, where it's been depreciated. But in the context of wealth creation, which is serviceability and the ability to leapfrog from one property to another using equity, in the context of wealth creation, the old house is the worst property you can buy because you cannot buy the second or third one and you're going to run out of money. And that's what I want you to understand. And that's what land tax has done and made even more impossible today than it was before the changes kicked in. Even before this land tax increase came into effect, it was still impossible to do anyway, even with 2.5% interest rates. But now it's even more impossible. So yes, the average growth for townhouses, 7 to 8%. The average growth for houses, 8 to 12. So there is no question the house will outperform the townhouse. The question is, it's the wrong vehicle. That's the problem, guys, okay? And it's all in the numbers. Numbers don't lie. This is why most of my decisions are based on mathematics, not emotional, guys. You got to take the emotion out of the equation. If you're emotional about buying properties, if you live in Cheltenham and you buy Cheltenham and Mentone properties, and one day you're going to retire in Balmoral and then you can drive around your Cheltenham properties, well, you know what? You probably can still get there, but that's the wrong decision making, Michael. If you can buy something, for example, in Port Melbourne or Essendon or Yarraville or Williamstown, we can get really good growth. You know, you might be not maximizing, because remember, everything is about optimizing and maximizing. Optimizing, which means getting not only the structure correct but minimizing your tax, and maximizing the efficiency of your scarce resources, because you can only borrow so much money, you can only service so much debt. So the people that succeed in property investing are maximizing every dollar they earn. That's the key thing. And I can tell you now, the old notion of buy the big old house on the big block, unless you're flipping, subdividing, renovating, that's different. But for buy and hold, that ship has sailed, guys. So if you're interested in building wealth, come to my company, Investors Prime Real Estate, where we source blue chip properties in Melbourne's highest capital growth suburbs, like the one I showed you in Carnegie. That's all I do with my clients. I help them establish and build large property portfolios. All I do all day, guys, is help people build up their property portfolios. I choose those properties for them. I source them directly from some of the best developers and builders in Melbourne. Now, here's an article explaining and demonstrating what the impact, if you're not aware of these things. If you're rating tax, the final straw for Aussie landlords from $307 to $3,096. Victorian landlords like Gary are being hit with the skyrocketing land tax, which cost him an increase more than 600%. So this is an article, you can check it out for yourself. Infuriating tax, the final straw for Aussie landlords from $307 to $3,096. Landlords are fleeing Victorian property market. They're not fleeing the property market. It's uneducated landlords. They don't understand how to do due diligence and crunch the numbers, and they've bought the wrong property, are selling now because they've made the wrong decision. It's like saying unsuccessful share market investors are fleeing the market because they're losing money. Yeah, because they bought the wrong stock. I mean, why would you hold on to something that's not making you money? You're going to go bankrupt. Are fleeing Victorian property market as they hit high land taxes. Some landlords are passing on the high cost to renters. If they can, they'll pass it on. But if you've got an old house from the 50s with one bathroom that smells like a dog, you're not going to be putting rentals up to $1,200 a week, or leaving the market altogether. Yeah, that's the only option you have if you made the wrong decision. Gary has 2 investment properties in Wangaratta, country town northwest of Victoria, with one currently rented out. He told Yahoo Finance skyrocketing land taxes were putting his finances under pressure. Land tax has gone from $397 to $600 to $3,096 in the last 3 years, and he has flawed. I absolutely agree with him, and I'm not making fun of him, by the way. It's a real concern, and I wish he had the right information, because what he should have done is bought cash flow positive or neutral townhouses, because he could have kept them today with more rental, even sold a few, pay some out, and have a very comfortable retirement. The 72-year-old builder has planned to retire later this year and said higher land taxes meant he was now considering selling up. He potentially has no other option. He has drawn from his superannuation savings to pay off his mortgages, but now doesn't have any more cash to spare. This is the last straw. I have to sell something to live, so when I retire, something's got to go. And then it goes on from there, which is, I completely understand that. And this is what I'm trying to do through my YouTube channel, guys, is to educate you guys that those principles that people keep talking about, buy the big block on the old house and blah, or the worst house in the best street, that's good for renovations or flipping properties. But for buy and hold, when you're accumulating and cash flow is important to you, it could be one of the worst decisions you can make, basically. The Victorian government hiked the land taxes at the start of the year as part of a temporary measure to pay down COVID debt. Thanks, Dan Andrews, for locking us up for 2 years. Victorians who own a second home or investment property now have to pay $500 annually. Taxable properties with land value between $50,000 and $100,000, and just goes on, which we covered before about everything else. Guys, that's it. If you're interested in learning more, there's a couple of things that I encourage you to do. Number one is, if you're in other states around Australia, jump on to my home study. It's a recording from a few years ago now, but it's 80% the same. Nothing's really changed, except the market's changed. So if you watch my latest market updates on my YouTube channel, and then get this information, you'll do well. You can access this for free. There's no strings attached. There's no upsell. Just scroll down below. There's a link there. You can start watching it immediately. It's worth $497. It's 15 hours of content and the 433-page manual. Just the finance section would change your life. I mean, if I can wipe 10 years off your mortgage and save you $200,000-$300,000 after tax, is that worth 15 hours of your life? I mean, it's crazy. Like the worst thing you could do is never pay off your mortgage by using a mortgage reduction program, and just take the maximum amount of time to pay off a standard mortgage, which is not the best way to do things. So this is a really good way to educate yourself, getting into Nexus. Now, some of you might be interested in working with me personally one-on-one. If you are, definitely let's get in contact. I offer people a 60-minute strategy session just to go through your situation to make sure what I do is relevant to you. For some of you, probably out of 10 people that I speak to, only 3 or 2 can work with me. The rest want to do other things, or what I do is not compatible with them. I source blue chip properties in Melbourne's highest capital growth suburbs. It's a buy and hold, never sell strategy. So not everyone wants to do that. People want to do renovations, subdivisions. I can't help you with any of that stuff. But if you want to replace your income passively by buying blue chip properties in Melbourne's best suburbs, then definitely come and see me. We'll sit down on Zoom for 60 minutes. I'll go through your situation, where you are, where you want to be, and I'll give you a written plan. And look, a plan is very important, guys. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So most people spend years wasting energy and time trying to accomplish a large property portfolio. And a lot of people just give up at the end because it doesn't work. And they give up because the numbers don't work, guys. Like I showed you today, you can't buy 7 old houses in Melbourne anymore on 1,000 square meters of land with an old house from the 50s if you're on 250 grand a year. The numbers don't work. Mathematically, it's not even an opinion, guys. It's just mathematically impossible, whichever way you approach it. So you want to make sure that what you're doing is feasible mathematically and from a lending perspective, which I can help you with for sure. We've got clients now buying the 7th, 8th property. So it's an hour consultation. There's no strings attached. There's no fee. And the worst thing you can come out of it is I'll give you my accountant, my lawyer, my solicitors, quantity surveyors, insurance brokers, my whole network, which are all in Melbourne. You can contact them and use them to build your property portfolio. These are the people that I use to build my wealth. And these are the people also, some of them are featured in my book and they've contributed chapters to my book about depreciation schedules and contract law, property management, all sorts of things. So you want to have an A team. You know, if there is a secret to building wealth, it's to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you and wealthier than you in property investing. So you can walk away with a whole team. You walk away with a written strategy. It's a step-by-step system of literally what to do exactly to replace your income. Now, you need to qualify. The cheapest properties that I source are 700,000. I've actually got a couple of properties in Bundoora now that have completed for 649,000. But normally 700 is like the cheapest that I source. The average, I would say, will be 1.2 million. So you need to be at least, if a single person, 95,000 per year and have $112,000 in savings or equity. For a couple, you need to be on 140 plus 112,000 in equity or savings. That means you can transact on a $700,000 purchase in today's market. If you do qualify, just email me directly. You can jump onto my website, investorsprime.com.au, which is on the bottom of this page, or just email me at conrad@investorsprime.com.au, and I can organize a mutually convenient time to go through your situation, explore your options. At least then you know exactly what is possible for you through buy and hold blue chip property strategy. Thank you very much, guys. You've been an amazing audience. I hope you enjoy the content of today. I tried to make it as interesting as possible. As I mentioned, I hate tax as a topic, but I can tell you now, the new tax changes and new land tax has completely altered this game, because it's now even harder to buy old houses on big blocks of land. Even though I love them, we all love them, they don't work mathematically anymore. Unless you're going to subdivide them and build, that's completely different. But I'm saying if you're just going to hold on to the old house on the big block, that ship has sailed. You can't do it. You've got to be smart now. You've got to start doing it with townhouses and smaller properties where you're still getting the suburb, you're still getting the advantage of the postcode, the schools, the lifestyle, the cafes, but you get a small footprint of land, 100, 150 square meters, 200 square meters, which means you're only paying a portion of the land tax. Otherwise, you can be spending 10, 15 grand in land tax, and it's just impossible to do so. So hope you enjoyed the video, guys. By the way, if you have any topics, by the way, if you want me to cover, email me as well, and I'll do some videos for you guys. It's Konrad Bobilak. Thank you very much. I'll see you on the inside.